I only answered the call because it came from Ryan. He doesn't call anymore. None of them do. They have a way of disappearing, a slow fade into the hum of mundane life once they've seen what we've seen. I was feeding my daughter, 2 months old, a tiny universe of soft sighs and the smell of milk and new blankets. My wife was asleep in the bedroom, having just taken the night shift. The bottle trembled in my hand as the phone buzzed. The harsh light from the screen, a jarring intrusion into the dim, quiet nursery. He didn't even say hello. "We got Hell House." My stomach twisted into a cold knot. The words were a brand, a permanent scar on our collective memory. "No." "Double rate," he said, the greed in his voice a thin veneer over a deeper desperation. "One night, just film and go. Maya's in, Eli too." I was already shaking my head, a frantic, silent refusal. We said never again. We promised. "We need the money, and—" He hesitated, and I knew what was coming. The low blow. "You said you'd help if things got bad." My eyes went to the baby monitor. The tiny monochrome screen showed my daughter, a miniature fist pressed against her cheek, twitching in her sleep. Her lip quivered, a perfect copy of the small, distressed movements my wife would make in her sleep. It was as if she could sense the decision being made, an invisible weight pressing down on her tiny world. I should have said no. But I went. Of course I did. Hell House hadn't changed. It was an entity unto itself. It still squatted at the end of Grayson Lane like a rotted tooth, a gaping maw of brick and splintered wood. The lawn grew in uneven spirals, as though it were recoiling from something foul buried underneath. The windows sweated even in the cold night, the condensation blurring the darkness inside like tears. We knew the stories. The couple who stayed the night, the husband who vanished, the wife who checked herself into a sanitarium, her mind a shattered landscape of silent screams. We knew the local legends, the whispers in the dark corners of the internet. But we weren't tourists. We were the team who broke the Baxter crypt case. We debunked Larrabee Asylum. We filmed the Woods Hollow entity. We knew the difference between a trick and the real thing. Hell House was the real thing. Inside, the air was thick and heavy, smelling of burnt hair and old pennies. The living room was a monument to unspoken horrors. The pentagram was still there, a great sprawling star of dried blood, nearly black, embedded into the floorboards. No amount of sanding or chemical wash could get it out. It looked like old, shriveled leather now, sunken and cracked with age. Eli wouldn't step near it, his shadow clinging to the edges of the room. Maya's cameras kept glitching, their screens flashing with static like a dying heart monitor. Fresh batteries drained in seconds. Ryan made jokes about demons and faulty wiring, but even he got quiet when the knocking started upstairs. Not banging, knocking. Slow, measured. The sound was distinct and impossibly close, like someone gently rapping on a coffin lid. We ignored it. That was the deal. No provocations. Just film and go. But at 2:43 a.m., the knocking stopped. The silence that followed was a physical presence, a vacuum that sucked the air from my lungs. The buzzing in my ears started, a high-pitched whine like 1,000 trapped flies. We were all standing in the hallway, a tight knot of shared dread. Eli's camera, which had been the only one still working, suddenly went dark. "What was that?" Maya whispered, her voice a fragile thing. Ryan, ever the pragmatist, shook his head. "Faulty wiring. Let's just finish the—" He stopped, his eyes widening. A shadow, impossibly long and thin, stretched from the doorway of a bedroom at the end of the hall. It coiled around his ankles like a living rope. It moved with a liquid, sickening speed, dragging him into the room. He didn't scream. There was a single, wet-sounding thump as he was pulled from view, and then silence. We heard the door creak shut. Maya screamed, a short, sharp burst of terror. She turned to run, but the shadow was already there. A second, more diffuse darkness rising from the floor behind her. It didn't coil. It simply enveloped her, her form blurring and dissolving into the gloom, as if she were a piece of film exposed to too much light. Her screams cut off mid-note, a final gasp that hung in the air like dust. Her camera fell to the floor, its light a dying flicker before it went out completely. I fumbled for my flashlight, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I turned to Eli, who was standing frozen, his eyes wide with a terror so profound it had paralyzed him. A third shadow detached itself from the ceiling, a cluster of black tendrils that descended like a macabre chandelier. It wrapped around his head and neck, twisting and pulling until his camera finally clattered to the floor. His body, now a marionette on invisible strings, was pulled upwards, his limbs jerking unnaturally before he vanished into the ceiling with a final, wet crack. I turned to run. My feet moved on their own, a panicked blur of motion. I sprinted down the stairs, not daring to look back, my lungs burning, my head pounding with a pain that felt like a hot iron. I hit the bottom step, and a sudden, sharp pain exploded at the back of my skull. I stumbled and fell, the world tilting and spinning. The flashlight flew from my hand, its beam cartwheeling across the living room and catching the horrible glint of the dried blood pentagram. I scrambled to my feet, my head swimming. The door was right there. 100 feet felt like a mile. I threw myself against it, the splintered wood a blessed relief against my shaking hands. The latch didn't budge. It was locked from the outside. I clawed at the handle, the cold metal a cruel joke. The buzzing in my ears was deafening now. A whisper, clear as a bell, just behind my ear. "You brought it home." I looked through the small, grimy window in the door. Standing just outside, a gaunt, shadowy figure was watching me, its head tilted, and it raised a single, impossibly long finger to its lips. I could see the faint, bloody smudge on the glass from where it had been resting its hand. It was the same shape as the pentagram. I didn't try the door again. I ran through the kitchen, through the dining room, through the broken glass and scattered furniture. I smashed a window with my camera, ignoring the tearing pain as the glass sliced my arm. I squeezed through, scraping skin from bone. I didn't stop until I was in my van. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. The engine sputtered to life. The high-pitched buzzing in my ears faded, replaced by the thrum of the engine. I drove in silence, the long, dark ribbon of asphalt a welcome relief. Not a single car passed me. I was the only thing left alive on the road. When I got home, the sky was a bruised shade of dark purple, the sun still hours from rising. My wife had left the porch light on, a warm, golden beacon in the gloom. The door was unlocked. The baby monitor was on. The screen was black. I tapped it. Static. Then, a sound. A low, distorted murmur of laughter. Not my daughter's gentle coos. Not my wife's sweet, sleepy whispers. Ryan's laugh. Then Maya's. Then Eli's. All faint. All distant. All wrong. Then, a whisper. Clear, sharp, and chillingly close. Right behind my ear. "You brought it home." The monitor flickered once, just for a second. The screen illuminated, a pale, sickly light in the dark hallway. I saw the crib. I saw the floor. And then I saw the bloody pentagram, smeared across the white carpet in the nursery. The cold grip of terror seized me, the blood draining from my face. I heard a small, whimpering cry from the crib. My baby. My precious daughter. I rushed into the room, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. The door slammed shut behind me, the sound a final, hollow punctuation mark. The air was thick with the same metallic scent of burnt pennies from the hell house. Standing over the crib, their backs to me, were 3 shadowy figures. They were tall and impossibly thin, their forms shimmering at the edges like heat haze. My wife was nowhere to be seen. Her scent, the delicate perfume of her skin, had been replaced by the stench of burnt hair. My love, my partner, the reason I even had a daughter, was gone. Under the crib, half hidden in the gloom, was a bloody pacifier. A deep, bone-crushing dread unlike anything I had ever known washed over me. It was the terror of a husband and a father, the fear of having brought something home from the darkness to violate the one thing in the world I loved the most. The figures turned, and in their hands, they held something small and fragile. My daughter was crying, her tiny body trembling in their grasp. And as I saw the figures, I knew they weren't Ryan, Maya, or Eli. They were the hell that took them.